Well, you heard it. That's the latest conspiracy theory that I don't know, Democrats, liberal media, somebody set Joe
We're
Biden
trying to
up
get Joe Biden out
something.
now.
Right. I do think that probably Bernie Sanders planted the documents
Sure.
in the Wilmington house of Biden so that Biden can't run again. It's all making sense now.
No fingerprints because he always wears those mittens. So
Bernie is so good at stealth
the
ops.
second time I cracked him up already. We just started.
Yeah.
This is a good morning.
Well, I'm already thinking of the crime scene text in the FBI looking for the hair and fiber off the Bernie mittens, which they probably already have a record of on file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Okay, Frank, you wrote a piece everybody's talking about because that's how you roll. You said your piece is now's a good time for Joe Biden to invite the FBI into his house. A consent search would not only benefit Biden, it would also be beneficial for the FBI and Department of Justice. Explain that to us.
Yeah, this really, everybody's kind of scratching their heads over this, but for folks who know me, I just plod through every day pretending like things are normal and explaining how things work normally in law enforcement. Normally in a leak investigation,
Yeah.
The next thing you do, like, let's pretend I'm still the assistant director. And by the way, I would have had oversight of this leak investigation because it's set in counterintelligence, that responsibility.
And Lara Trump would have worked under your purview, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the next thing I would have done is, if this were anybody but Biden, I'd go, hey, let's ask the guy if we can search his house, have him sign the consent form. Every FBI agent worth their salt has in their briefcase or in their trunk a consent to search form. It's like, hey, do you mind if we look around? This happens every day in our country. And Biden's cooperating, right?
Yeah.
And he makes great hay that he's cooperating. And I right now, I tend to believe him. Yeah, okay. And we go, hey, let's look around. And what would this do? It's the next logical investigative step for national security. This new guy, Robert Hur, the new special counsel, he's going to come in and go, what's the scope? Do we have an idea of how many documents we're dealing with beyond what they've turned over? We don't know.
Yeah.
Let's ask.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And it helps national security, it helps the investigation, and it helps Biden, from a public perception standpoint, because guess what? Donald Trump never did that. Donald Trump would never invite the FBI into his residence. So that just seems the next logical step. I know logic has escaped us, Stephanie, but that's the next thing you would do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, us lay people can try to explain this over and over till we're blue in the face, the differences between the Trump and Biden situations. I mean, they're like, where's the raid? On Biden, where's the pictures? Like, not...
Right. Let's I'm sure you've told your listeners, look, two quick things about what you need for a search warrant, because that's what they keep saying is, where's the raid? Where's the raid? You need to show evidence of a crime, and you need to show that evidence of that crime is in the place to be searched. Well, what's the crime here? The crime could, theoretically, which is why we have a special counsel, could be mishandling of documents. That's a low-level crime. And yes, it could be. But guess what? That crime, if you read the statute, requires intent to squirrel something away, hide it unlawfully, inappropriately. We have no evidence of intent. So a magistrate's not going to sign a search warrant. So therefore, that's where I get the consent to search theory.
Yeah. You also said context is important. A lawyer with a clearance looked through the materials being turned over and saw more pages marked classified amongst them. White House says more documents with classified markings, when they were found at Biden's. Isn't that part of the problem, Frank, is that some people didn't have clearance to see it? So explain that process to us.
So, yeah, obviously, if you got a steady diet of Fox News, all you're hearing is, there were even more documents found. When I say context is important, what I mean is those additional 5 or whatever documents that were found in that box in the room adjacent to the garage, those were found by a guy with a clearance who was sent in afterwards. So it appears the instructions were given to the first lawyer, hey, if you see something, stop, box it up, right, and let us know. Then here comes a guy with a clearance going, okay, I went through those additional docs in that same box, and I think there's more classified. So this is not the huge, oh my God, they're hiding, there's even more documents. No, it was a clearance thing. Now, the problem, of course, is the Wall Street Journal has reported that Biden went to DOJ. This, by the way, I haven't seen anyone else confirm this. Went to DOJ and said, you guys want to tag along, my lawyers are going to do a search. And allegedly DOJ said, no, Not right now, thanks. Tell us what you find.
Yeah.
So for people saying, oh, he's nefariously searching by himself, he's having his lawyers do it.
Yeah.
Well, apparently DOJ told him, tell us what you find. So it's a mishandling case. I feel horrible for if this is a clerk or an aide who boxed up the stuff at the end of his term and sent it, not realizing it's intermingled with classified. Oh my God, I feel sorry for him. Someone's going to be held accountable, but let's put it, context is important.
Yeah.
Let's just go with what we know.
Yeah. You also wrote about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar on the Homeland Insecurity Committee, as you call it. I mean, Frank, what kind of world did you wake up in as a former FBI guy when everyone on the Homeland Security Committee was involved in the insurrection and asked for a pardon?
We are living life upside down, Stephanie. Truly, you can't make this stuff up. It would flop as a movie script because people would go, that can't happen. You can't
because there's been no accountability. The people that tried to overthrow the government are now running it. So Marjorie Taylor Greene got to where she is as a QAnon encourager. I actually, since you brought up, I have to say, this is our People Who Belong in Prison stack. Travis, is that correct?
Yes.
Michael Flynn will be holding one of his QAnon conferences at a Trump. So now there's no separation between Trump and the QAnon crazies. He's fully embracing them. But one of the people speaking, I just wanted to talk to you about the Law and Order Party, our Republican Party. Well, the flyer features Scott McKay, known as the Patriot Street Fighter. He wields a tomahawk on stage and urges his fans to threaten violence against police officers enforcing coronavirus restrictions. This is at the former president's, whatever, a QAnon conference.
Flynn is a very dangerous guy. He rose to power, National Security Advisor, former general. And, he's made some comments that kind of simultaneously, you have to wonder, is he faking all of this? Because he made some comments the other day that kind of renounced QAnon as craziness, right? But yet he'll turn around. He's taken the QAnon pledge on video. Is he playing a game? What's going on? But the guy is extremely dangerous, and he's not going away. He's a convicted felon, by the way. I keep reminding people of that. No one seems to care. We're in a bad way with regard to Flynn and those around him.
Let's talk about, I had to read your tweet right off the top of the show about the Supreme Court. You said there is no sign the court wanted to solve this. They assigned it to a marshal of the court, no FBI, no criminal process, no ex-clerks interviewed. Supreme Court said it's unable to identify the person who leaked the abortion ruling. This reminds me of the Brett Kavanaugh investigation. I mean, what happened here, Frank? How are they able to just go, nope, couldn't find it?
Yeah, you're the first person that's actually made the very astute connection because there are similarities. Let's recap real quickly on Kavanaugh. The White House, per protocol, a longstanding memorandum of understanding with the FBI for years, dictates the reinvestigation of candidates they nominate for high office, including Supreme Court justice. So people get all upset about the FBI not fully investigating Kavanaugh during his candidacy. But they have to understand there's a protocol in place where the White House dictates the parameters of a reinvestigation. Yeah. Well, it's really very close to what just happened with the Supreme Court investigation. The irony here is astounding because the Supreme Court decided they would give this leak investigation, which they, by their own words, claim is one of the biggest breaches of security in the history of the Supreme Court. So what did they do with it? They kept it in-house. They gave it to this person called the Marshal of the Supreme Court. She is essentially the chief of police for the building. Yeah. She has no law enforcement background, Stephanie. Yeah. And from what we know so far, and we know very little, it appears they kept their investigation only to onboard active employees of the Supreme Court and not, for example, outside to ex-clerks who may have been in the building at the time the Roe v. Wade overturning draft was drafted, right? Did they talk to the spouses people say, yeah, I told my spouse. Did you talk to the spouse? Did you limit this? Did you even, the New York Times says, we don't even know if they talked to the justices. So no criminal process, no FBI. They went outside and asked IT forensic experts to come in and look at the computers, right? What happened here? It seems to me, if they really wanted to get to the truth, they would have called in the FBI with criminal process, because by the way, crime has occurred. It was mishandling of government documents, went outside the building. No, they seem not to get to the truth. And here's the thing. I was on Nicole Wallace on MSNBC yesterday. She said, well, Frank, can't they call, John Roberts surely wants to take this seriously. Do you think he'll call in the FBI now? Here's the thing. If they truly did an internal administrative inquiry and they told their employees, you got to cooperate because we're doing this, and if you don't, there'll be some internal discipline. You could lose your job. That is called administratively compelled. Guess what? If you've been administratively compelled to cooperate in your boss's investigation, that can't be used against you criminally.
Yeah.
So the FBI would be getting a spoiled investigation.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all interesting. Let's quickly. I have so much to talk to you about. I feel like all the headlines are connected. John Eastman is unbowed as investigations proliferate. Right to Kansas man says God told him to threaten local GOP lawmaker for ignoring dangers of wizards and sorcery. I mean, this craziness from January 6th on through New Mexico and the shootings of Democratic lawmakers' homes. I mean, this insurrection is just continuing, right? Because the people like John Eastman all the way up to Trump have not been held accountable. What is your take on where we are with all that?
It's pretty dire. I hate to be the guy who always comes in and says the sky is falling, but Stephanie, it looks like the sky is falling. I'm guilty of this too. I keep focusing on the need for accountability. Yes, of course, we need high-level people held accountable criminally. But I have to tell you, we have developed what I call a semi-permanent insurgency in this country, and accountability, seeing certain people carted off to prison for criminality, maybe even the former president, will not be enough to de-radicalize, deprogram these people who have bought into this nonsense.
Right.
And it's going to take forever. And typically experts on anti-radicalization will tell you what it takes is their own cohorts, their own leaders, their gurus, their mentors to come and say, time out, we got to stop this. That's true anti-radicalization. But do you see that happening with Trump and his cohorts? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Quickly, the Alec Baldwin, this tragic case that just broke yesterday. So we're all, lay people just, fumbling around. We're not forensic experts. We don't know. It would seem to me they're going to have a really hard time making a case against Alec Baldwin specifically. I know intent is not necessary for a manslaughter charge in New Mexico, but give us your take on that whole case.
It is really troubling. Look, I also don't think a jury is going to buy off on this charge. I like accountability. I thought accountability would take place with regard to civil settlement, a big fat check being written. But what you have to focus on is his role as a producer, not so much as an actor who's just been handed a gun. So when you look at the totality of the circumstances, the stories we're hearing about going cheap on an armorer, disregarding complaints from people who literally left the set saying it's too dangerous with the guns. Rumors that target practice was occurring in downtime on the set. So you've got this knowledge that something's really not right. You're going on the cheap. People have live rounds somewhere on set. That's where I think the DA is going to focus. And I get it. But I also feel horrible for anybody that's told by an expert, this is a cold gun, right?
Yeah.
Now, with no training. In my training, you verify. I know the difference between a bullet that's real and not. I think, with 25 years of training. But he doesn't have that. Right. So it's a mess, Stephanie. And it raises the question of whether or not Hollywood can do this better than they currently do it. He says he didn't pull the trigger, but he says he did pull the hammer back. Well, you may know once you pull that hammer back, that gun can go off.
It's the same thing. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. All right. I'd rather be gunsplained to by an expert.
Yes.
Frank, last question before you go. If I wanted to go on a cruise to Alaska with you, how would I do that?
Aha! Yes. So if people are thinking all of this craziness has got me really, really hurting, I need time away. We're going to do that. I've decided to host a nice high-end Oceania Cruise Lines cruise to Alaska this summer in June. Ooh. If you want more details, great excursion. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We can deprogram and reset.
Nice.
Go to my website, FrankFigliuzzi.com. and you'll get all the details on the Oceania cruise, and the ship will be the Regatta.
Oh, my
Great
God.
food, great people.
All right, we link to it, and the only thing I've ever seen more beautiful than you is Glacier Bay in June. I've been there.
That's true. There you go.
Thank you, Frank. Talk
Thanks,
to you
Frank.
next time.
Have a good day.
Thank you.